as you can see, we can read the future and we can tell you everything you want to know about yourself, but we're a little technologically impaired.
Okay. I think
there we go.
Okay, good girls. All right, let's get.
So just to give you a little bit of background of why we get, yes, Bumbles. Bumbles is my favorite. Right. But to give you a little background of why we chose to do this and why we're doing it. Oh, am I talking too loud? I'm so excited. But you can tell we tend to have fun with the things we do. And we like to make people laugh because that's the best way to raise their frequency. So we, we have to make clowns of ourselves. We really hate doing that, but we do it for you. But anyway, a little background. The reason I love doing monsters, I've always been interested in Bigfoot, kind of like Sheri, when I was a kid. I first learned about Bigfoot and Yeti and all these things from a famous movie that had come out way back when. I'm really aging myself a little bit here, but I've always been interested in the movies, especially when I came back, from dying. All of a sudden, all these different things started becoming very interesting. Why am I here? What is my purpose? I'd be sitting in a tent under the sky at 8 years old and like, why am I here? Not exactly, hey, let's play games, let's play with dolls and things like that. No, why am I here? So I got interested in the Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti, the Chupacabra. There's so many of them. And if you guys decide you like the little
make sure you like, comment, and share.
Yeah, make some comments and let us know, and we'll go ahead and do another one on some of the other monsters, and we'll keep it going for a little bit because there's so many things to share until Halloween. We love Halloween. It's one of our favorite holidays, obviously, so I could be the modern day witch. But we're going to go ahead and start with Bigfoot and Yeti and the Abominable Snowman, and of course Bumbles. Bumbles is my favorite. He's been around for a long time. So I'm going to let Verohnika go ahead and start with our little PowerPoint.
Okay, so in regards to Bigfoot and Yeti, I actually had a sighting up when I lived in California when I was around like 9 or 10. We went up to where the San Andreas Fault was, and I saw this big black or brownish blob of hair, just really tall. And it was just staring at us kids. It was actually a summer camp up in the mountains. And that was the last time that I went to camp. I really love forests at a far distance. I don't like walking around where there's a lot of shrubbery because that's just still spooks me out. So that became my fascination. And I've always communicated with extraterrestrials that also share that telepathic link with Bigfoot, Yeti, that sort of thing. So I collected all that I have. I actually had to trim a lot of the fat on this. So basically, we're going to be taking a closer look at the mystery surrounding Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and his cousins, the Yeti, and the Abominable Snowman, which was a mistranslation from the word metal, which was up from the Himalayas from a tribe called the Sherpa. So it was actually mistranslated by an English-speaking journalist. So that's where instead of, it was supposed to be the hairy snowman, he turned it synonym of filthy, so he ended up giving it abominable, and that's where it flew within the newspapers and articles, which there's been sightings all over the place for each one of these cousins, pretty much. Now, in regards to the hidden monsters and extraterrestrials, we're going to be doing a little bit of the history and folklore of these creatures. Yes. So just go really quickly. All these that you see from Stonehenge to the Great Wall of China, the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, and Machu Picchu up in Peru, they all have shared common folktale of different types of Bigfoot sightings as well. So we're going to go through the origins, where's Bigfoot, description, names, sightings, a couple films, footages that were taken, talk about the cousins, and we'll
Cousins?
Yes.
That's, well, they're gonna be like Squash Yeti or
Yes, but they're not kissing
the
cousins.
abominable squash?
Yes, abominable squash.
I've had a few of those at dinner.
Stinky hairy men.
Stinky hairy men.
And basically Q&A and cross paths with extraterrestrials, Native American tribes, and tales as well. So for our first one, there's been lots of sightings within the United States, a lot of them around the Midwest, towards East Coast, the West Coast, except in Hawaii. Bigfoot, for some reason, does not like the sun, doesn't like the ocean, doesn't like blaze. He just keeps up in the mountain. A very private fellow.
So he's afraid to get a lay?
Yes, he is.
Wait, back up. I didn't know they had geographic identification areas.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
We've got a map coming up in a minute. They've been spotted all over the country.
Yeah, this one in particular just gives you a little bit of information, which we'll be going a little bit deeper dive into. So the description is normally about 8 or 9 feet tall. The impression or the cast that we're taking of the foot by the weight and the distribution of the actual foot is about 800 pounds. A horrendous smell, very matted hair, so he doesn't wash his hair, not even in the streets. Mm-hmm. They've also found gigantic footprints, even where the Yeti resides. There was a current article as of late, I think about less than 6 months ago, where the Indian Army in India, up in the Himalayan mountains, they did find long tracks of Yeti-type footprints. And the neat part is that Daniel Boone got in on the action as well, which it's very interesting. They have different accounts. There's even an article where this lady was captured by I think the Comanches, and she lived with them for 2 years before being let go. And she described what she calls man tigers, which were about 8 or 9 feet tall, really hairy, really smelled really, really bad, and just I was able to publish that. So there's definitely a lot of longevity regarding that.
And most of them, depending on what part of the country, they tended to give them different names. There's been sightings, especially in a lot of them in the southern states, Alabama, Louisiana, and they tended to call it more of a swamp creature or a swamp ape. And they've had different sightings, and they've managed to catch a couple pictures. Most of the best pictures, I believe, were done in the Northwest, because they're also very prevalent up in the Northwest, up in Washington, Idaho. I mean, but they've even been seen in the cornfields of Indiana, which I'm originally from Chicago, and I lived in Indiana for a fair amount of years, and that is the last thing I would have liked to see. But they have this horrible screech that they've managed to record, and they've not been able to link it to any known species on the planet.
Nope. And basically in the areas around, as you guys can see, everybody who's viewing the map of the U.S., that's actually infrared tracing of all the sightings of, they pinpointed every single,
No way.
yeah, that's all the sightings. And wherever there is,
That's not coronavirus. That's
you never know.
You never know.
This is Sasquatch sightings, really?
Oh yeah, Sasquatch.
Look how many in northern Florida. It's very saturated.
Yes, northern Florida.
Yes, I see them right in Orlando.
Yes. Hi. So they also have sighted in the Okanagan Valley in Canada as
Hey,
well.
that's where my aunt lives.
Yeah.
Like Washington, Canada over there?
Yeah,
Yes,
Washington,
yes,
Oregon,
a lot of them
Canada.
up in those upper states. Quite a few in Arizona.
A lot of sightings, typically where there's in the forest parks, the rangers have tales themselves of being chased out by Bigfoot, and they're
Kind of like right here. Can you see it?
What about?
No, like this area right there. You got this area.
Yeah.
Right there.
A lot of high concentration in those areas.
This area here.
Yeah, and
where
they
the
haven't.
Great Lakes are at
They
too.
haven't quite linked it, but there even could be a possible link to some of the giant sightings that have been seen could have also been Sasquatch or Yeti, because there are similarities between the two, especially with the height and weight. And there's been a lot of the giant sightings in North America.
And there was a recent photo, I think of last winter or the last 6 months, where they capture a family of Bigfoot, of Sasquatch with their young little Sasquatchians.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's quite blurry, so it's still subject to interpretation. But they say it is a possibility. They say it doesn't fit the criteria for a bear, which is probably the closest in that area. Another thing is there have been a lot of sightings out in North Carolina. Now, I had an experience with something.
Not a lot there.
Not a lot, but I lived on the top of a mountain for 5 years. And I had basically wanted a little space. I wanted to get away. So I built a house 4,000 feet up on a mountain. And it was right on the edge of North Carolina, in Leicester, North Carolina. And I loved it. I saw 7 mountain ranges. But along with 7 mountain ranges, I saw a lot of other strange things. I'd seen bobcat, I'd seen mountain lion, deer, wolves, all sorts of crazy stuff. And one of the things I saw that, again, might have been a bear, but sure didn't look like a bear. And I always felt I was being stared at.
Was it the hare?
It was the hare. It was not the bear, there was a hare. But I saw something that was extremely tall. It was kind of dark, but it was walking past a tree on one of the empty lots. And when I lived up on this mountain, there was only like 2-3 families up there. So it was very secluded, and there wasn't a lot of, people. There wasn't a lot of traffic or anything like that. So, it was a great place for things to hide. And you could swear every time you went by there, something was staring at you. You just feel it. It was really weird. It could have been Sasquatch. It could have been extraterrestrials. A lot of different things. We see a lot of extraterrestrials when we go into more remote areas that are a little quieter. I mean, we even see them in our house. So they're all over the place. They are the reason that a lot of people don't see the extraterrestrials, and we also believe the reason that they don't see Bigfoot or the Yeti and things like that all the time is we believe they are dimensional beings. Once you start waking up a little bit and ascending, the veil thins in the dimensions, and you can see different things in other dimensions. And one of those things is extraterrestrials, and the other thing we believe is also Bigfoot and the Yeti, because we think that that's why, being so elusive, that's why no one seems to be able to catch them and trap them and bring them back and things like that. Is that, when people see them and they walk away, they just slide into another dimension and they're gone.
Yeah, and later on we'll go into somebody that we happened to meet, not even by coincidence.
Yeah, we had a very long conversation with him about this.
Yes, so we have first-person testimonies as well.
Are they human or primates?
They are a hybrid.
Yeah, it's hard to put a finger on the extraterrestrials and who and what they are, because they're their own clans and their own beings. That some of them, there are a lot of hybrids out there though. We feel that it could have very well been a mix of possibly humans and some other type of extraterrestrial, because there's a lot of that going on out there. A lot of people don't realize, but you could be walking down the street in a town or in a city, and you walk right by an extraterrestrial and not even know it, because they've integrated into our societies. So yeah. So the one of the things about the
what do you mean they integrated in our society?
That they're with us. They're with us. There are a lot of hybrids as far as extraterrestrials. We believe that there are reptoids that are shapeshifters, and that they have integrated into our society and bred with humans, or also they're so advanced that they can, they do the genetics, and they will, put it together in a petri dish, and they will implant humans, bring it back out. You'll find one of the things we touched on was with the extraterrestrials was that there's a lot of abductees that have been taken by extraterrestrials, and that they feel like they're pregnant, and then it gets taken away. And we believe that some of that is the experimentation on different things, because one of the things that we believe also is that humans on Earth is kind of an experiment, and we believe it's more of a matrix. But there's also a lot of experimenting on the genome and the biology of the human, and they're trying to, you know, integrate us. And we believe a lot of that's what the ascension is about, integrating and opening up some of our DNA and start turning things on so that we start ascending more. But the other things that they've done is, you know, they've mixed and matched with different DNA and different things, trying to make a better human, or a better, I don't know what you want to, a better, we believe a lot of the humans have the extraterrestrial blood in them, from extraterrestrials that have come down in the past. We'll probably have to make a whole lecture on that. We believe that, well, they've already proven that people who have O negative blood,
it's all about the O.
Yeah, it's all about the O and the Rh negative factor. They have not been able to link people with Rh negative factor to anybody else on the planet or anything else on the planet. So that they believe that they are some sort of extraterrestrial hybrid. I believe that a lot of them are actually light workers that in starseeds that have been brought down to help ascend the planet. But back to the Bigfoot. I have a little ADA, and I just go woo off somewhere else.
Let's bring you back to center. Awesome. Awesome conversation, ladies. It makes us all want to get out our blood work now. I believe I'm a type O negative.
And we are all type O's.
And they do tend to.
We're not actually type O's. We're just blood type O.
They tend, you know, it's funny enough because they tend to find each other.
Bigfoot.
Yeah. They tend to find, yes, Bigfoot, yes.
So this is another cast that was taken up in near, believe it or not, in the Oregon, near the Alaskan wilderness, what they call the in-between area. It was found, I believe, by a logger, somebody who was logging up there, and they decided to fill it in. They called a special company, they filled it in, and that's what basically came out. Typically it's that type. They were able to discern that it was from an older age Bigfoot, because of all the I guess it was eating away the foot and stuff.
How big was it?
It was about almost 16, size 16.
The feet were as long as 24 inches long and 8 inches wide. They calculate that it could have been 8 to 9 feet tall or 800 pounds, which is slightly bigger. Our foot, if we put our foot on there, would probably just cover up pretty much the heel.
Teeny weeny.
Yeah,
so there should have been 2 of those molds then.
Well, they only were able to capture one, though. Mm-hmm. There was only one footprint.
Yeah, again, they're very elusive, and it's tough to catch the footprints and things.
Yeah. How can there only be one footprint of a monster that huge? It's got to be a whole...
Well, they could have. You know, a lot of it is in the grass. Well, you know, in the woods.
A lot of the folklore tends to be shared among the Native American tribes. It's a cross between a large ape and a human, and it is so agile that it can jump from one leg up a tree or up a mountain. It's not human. Mm-hmm. So it's a very sacred, what they consider very sacred brotherhood regarding the Bigfoot.
Yes, they don't consider them creatures or you know, something to fear. They have a bond with them.
They do, and they've coexisted for millennia since the inception of Native American folklore. There's other folklore. We will continue it as part of our cryptozoology series, but there's also falling in line with the ant people, also the beliefs of the Hopi as well, and the Anasazi as well too. But going back to Bigfoot, there's always 1 foot most of the time that's captured, because they believe, according to Native American tradition, that they either pass through portals or they jump like pretty much like a big.
And that's another thing we'll probably do a little lecture on, is portals, because they're all over the world. And you know, as far as a lot of the extraterrestrials and Bigfoot, Chupacabra, you know, some of these other extraterrestrial beings, you know, they have 1 foot on Earth and then whoop, they're gone into a portal. They're all over.
Okay, so just some fun facts. There's been a total of over 60 different names for the creature. So depending on the time period, the translation, because not every Native American tribe has one language, it's different dialects. Some believe from the same language tree, but they just broke off because they went into different areas. So for instance, you have the Coast Salish Indians calling it Sasquatch. That's where originally that's the name termed, that's the root for Sasquatch. Then you have the Oman, which is from the Huba people, and the Cherokees called it, I hope I don't butcher this, but it's called the Kekle Kudle. There's another tribe that actually the famous ice cream comes from, the Tillamook tribe.
Oh, I love that ice cream. That's so good.
As you can see, the name Shielgo means wild woman. That tribe, that's one of the tribes that believe it is a feminine creature. They call it a creature, but it can either be termed as a wild woman. The Okanagan call it the Snena, which is also the owl woman, because of the loud screeching. They identify it a lot, and they tend to stay away when they hear loud screeching, because I've heard the screech of a barn owl and a snowy white owl, and I've heard the screeching of a Bigfoot up in the Oregon trails, and it's really freaky, guys.
It's actually the wild woman. It's also possible that you could probably tie together a little bit the banshee with the wild woman, because they're very similar. You know, again, it goes through all of the Native American folklore. It goes all the way back into the, you know, when the pyramids were around and different things. So it's all over. It's all over.
Yeah, here in the U.S., there's been since the considered the American frontier, early 1800s, 1820s, more or less. That you have, for instance, the fun fact that Paul Kane, he was an artist and explorer, managed to, actually there's a little bit more behind the story, but basically he formed a bond with the Native Americans, and they told him about the skookums, which is actually very relevant to Bigfoot. That was very cannibal. So love human flesh. They told him basically where to stay the heck out of, which was out of southern Washington state. And he just kept on writing and writing, and he did a lot of his paintings from that time frame as well. The Miwok of the Yosemite area, there's a lot of legend and lore around the Yosemite area as well. Miwok was one of the ones that you know, told their story, how they have interactions with the hairy man. That was also held in high regards as a gatekeeper of the spiritual world. And also kept their children in line by telling them if they go out, the hairy man's going to come get you, and would actually avoid going into the forest on purpose, because when you go in that time frame, you're not going to come back out, supposedly.
This is very similar to the Hansel and Gretel with the witch story, you know, where they go out to the forest and these things would abduct the children and eat them. And again, you know, with the ones that the skookums, where they say they're known to have a liking for human flesh. Again, that's another thing that they have in common with a lot of the giants. A lot of the giants were also known to eat humans and have taste for human flesh.
Age was not a problem. They just ate them all.
Yeah.
Now another one in 1925. This was a well-renowned Greek photographer, N.A. Tombasi. He was part of the infamous British geological expedition. And they love to send their people out to the big glaciers, high mountains, Himalayas, and all that, because they really take some spectacular photos. But in this instance, he claims that he saw the creature up 15,000 square feet. That's where we start to get into the Yeti as well. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, how do we lose our picture?
Because we need to read it.
Oh, okay. Can't read it without it.
Okay, so this next one just talks about the sightings. Here in the US, it really took off in the late 1950s. Leading up to that, Bigfoot was more of a name to scare the kids. A bedtime story, don't go near the window, don't go in the forest. If your backyard happens to be in front of a forest, don't go back there by yourself. Or as soon as the sun is setting, don't go running back there. Because it was reported up until then there were disappearances. Wherever there was a Bigfoot, they suspected Bigfoot was there. There was a trail of animals ripped apart with their guts strewn all over the trees and stuff. It's like they were marking the territory of where not to go in. So another few fun facts. One of the infamous ones that I enjoyed reading about was Daniel Boone. He was a frontier folk hero, and he actually came across what he termed Yahoo, because he actually had read the stories of Jonathan Swift's classic.
Yahoo!
Gulliver's Travels. So he claimed until the day he died, it was about over 8 feet tall, a huge beast. And he said he shot him, but never brought back proof that he actually has shot something. He didn't even recover the bullet. So that happened up in the rugged mountains of Kentucky. There was another instance where 1924 in the Oregon wilderness, there was 5 gold prospectors that were attacked by a group of 8 men. They swore they did nothing wrong, but it was suspected that they went into an area where the native people that live there warned them specifically, do not go, because there was a big creature. And they suspected that they just went up there. And supposedly they were followed back by the 8 men, and they were hiding in their cabin at night, and they were attacked by a lot of boulders thrown by these 8 men. So they're about between 7 to 10 feet tall. They said that they were screaming these high-pitched screams that were unbelievable, and they didn't get out until it was pretty much the sun was in the sky pretty high. In the 1980s, there were also sightings in Pennsylvania. A lot of the natives there that lived there, locals, found that there was a footprint measuring about almost 18 inches long near the home of one of the people that lived there. Now, the Associated Press got into it. They covered the story, and they also managed to have more than one person witness or hear pretty much that there were a lot of really weird, loud, strange noises. And one thing, a factor in common with all of these hairy beasts is that they smell really, really funky. So if you smell that kind of funky odor, don't go that way towards the odor. You run the other way. Anything else you want to add?
Nope. Little deodorant would help.
All right, so we come to favorite part, fun part. So there were 2 films, one more famous than the other. In 1967, the Patterson footage came to be. So you've got 2 Bigfoot hunters named Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, and they actually came to Humboldt County in search of the Bigfoot. So at that point, they had no idea that the Bigfoot was in those areas. Native American folklore warned of not to trespass a certain point, as they normally do. And Roger Pattinson was actually by a ravine, a small ravine in a creek, and he was actually, I believe, getting his equipment ready. And he sees a big hairy guy, or the Bigfoot supposedly, walking, strolling around like he was in his own home, and he happened to take a picture. Or instead of a picture, he decided to go for the full footage. So he did it on I believe a 16 millimeter camera, and he he was very highly criticized. A lot of people did not believe him at all, but that was one of the first films. And the other one was based at the beginning, I believe, of the 2000s. There were a show called Animal X TV show, where they go into different parts of really wooded areas, difficult areas to capture really hidden creatures, mysterious creatures of old. And they managed to capture when they were coming onto a site that they were going to film on the other side of a huge tree going downhill. They see a plaster, they see an imprint of like somebody had been sleeping there on its side. So as you can see in the picture, they managed to capture a cast of it. So basically you see where the buttocks, the thigh, the forearm, also the heels as well, as if they were just sleeping there. So basically through the weight, it's up to 400 pounds because of the weight of the impression. And also it's about 6 feet tall is what they did it. And he was actually one of the guys that was on the team of that show. And this all happened in the Skookum Meadows area. It's a wooded area where the Bigfoot Field Research Organization had sponsored this show in part to go up to Washington State.
Now, this Patterson footage, I believe, was one of the very first actual videos or actual film footage of a Bigfoot. And again, it was very controversial. I know they did use it in a movie when they were doing a movie about different types of monsters and legends and stuff. The correlation between the Bigfoot and also the giants. One difference between the Bigfoot and the giants were the giants tended to have red hair. They also were up to 15 feet tall. Some of them even taller. They've now released a lot of pictures of large skulls and skulls that are bigger than the humans themselves. Some of these giants are huge, and they found footprints, and they've released pictures and videos of footprints. There are some other videos out there of Bigfoot and the Yetis, and you can go out and hunt them. Most of them are, you see a kind of a dark blob walking around, but there are a couple that have some really good footage captured on them.
Okay, so Bubbles is excited for his introduction. The Yeti and the abominable snowman are believed to be one and the same. Depending on which tribe or which Native American people you talk to, or up in the Himalayas, depending where you're at, a lot of on behalf of the Yeti folklore and legends, they actually have 12 different tales from the Sherpa. They're actually a tribe that live high up in the mountains. They've seen and they make sure that they pass their oral traditions to the newer generation so that they know the limits and boundaries of where they can go to and how to coexist with these creatures. So in accordance to Bigfoot, this is considered the cousin to the North American Bigfoot. It's either white or gray coat in color, very furry. They have really big, a really huge jaw with huge fangs as well. And at night, they make sure their kids do not go out because all they hear, according to the Sherpa, is that whistling, growls, especially if they come too close to that area. And they're also feared because of their very violent nature.
Now, if anybody happens to remember, Bumbles on the left, it was a abominable snowman that was in one of the famous cartoon sort of puppet movie pictures when they still have it out there. I think it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They kind of immortalized him in that particular thing, and but he's a lot more friendly, and supposedly he was very growling and everything, but the reason was because he had to have a tooth pulled. He had a bad tooth. But there's not too many pictures of the Yetis out there. The closest thing that I think I've seen to a Yeti, as far as a picture or what we feel they look like, was actually from a movie. what was the name of that movie? Extinct or something like that. Evolution. Evolution. It's actually a comedy, but they had something jumping out of a pit because they were showing different things were being evolved, and it looked a lot like what a Yeti would look like. So you might want to check it out.
Or there's a movie with similar appearance of the Yeti, which is The Time Machine, the newer one with I forget his actor, what the actor's name, but I think it was released in the 90s. But there you have an idea. So basically, going back to the Yeti, the name actually signifies bear or man bear, but it was also mistranslated from Mete, which is Tibetan as well, into abominable snowman. So along with that, as you see, the first big footprint, that was actually up in the Himalayas where the Sherpa people tend to reside. And the second were actually a track of footprints that were found by explorers. And that's the typical sighting by explorers that were there. The footprints reported as being almost 7 inches long, 4 inches wide, and appearing to have come from an upright animal. Now, back in the 40s, 1942 to be more exact, 2 hikers claimed to have seen 2 small specks moving across the snow below them. They noted as specks that they could make out the reddish-brownish furry bodies and square-shaped skulls. So they're very similar, very quick, and people don't stay around too long. So, and then our next slide, the Yeti is asking, have you seen me lately? So these are the more modern sightings in regards to the Yeti as well. So in the 19th century, we have an ethnologist and a British naturalist, B.H. Hodgson, that was exploring an area of northern Nepal where they have a lot of sightings. And his guides happened to spot a large hairy creature. When they went to approach it, they appeared to flee in terror. It just ran the other way. So imagine us being scared, it's even more scared of us. Now in 1921, a freelance journalist talked to some British explorers that came down from Mount Everest after an expedition and discovered some very large footprints on the mountain. The guides had attributed to Meto Kangmi, which is the Yeti. Now, we had talked about Tambasi, also the Greek photographer that saw him at 15,000 feet. And in 1986, in the Garhwal Himalaya of northern India, near western Nepal, he saw what he thought was a Yeti standing in the snow near a ridge about 500 feet away. Even though it was standing erect, it remained motionless with occasional movement coming from the surrounding shrubs. He took numerous photos with a small Nikon camera. As usual, they tried to discredit that, but they weren't able to find any single link or proof or drop that he had doctored them in any way. They were genuine.
One of the things that, again, we had mentioned before, the Native Americans, they honored these creatures and they respected these creatures, these extraterrestrials. And Native American tribes, especially the Hopi, the Zuni, and the Sioux tribes, when they encountered these extraterrestrials, they had telepathic communication with them, especially a lot of the elders. And this would happen in Sedona and Oregon, Pacific Northwest, Canada, USA. And that we believe that they are also star people. So one of the people that we had a very long conversation about this with was a Zuni elder, and his name was Clifford Mahoney, and awesome guy, very nice, and
very sacred medicine man.
Very sacred medicine man.
He's in the Kachina Medicine Society as well.
Extremely knowledgeable, and we got into this conversation about the Bigfoot, and he lived in right around the Four Corners in Arizona, and when he was a younger man, that he actually had lived kind of out in the middle of the desert. And he had one of these creatures had been coming up to his house, and it had been coming there for ages, and it still does. And he said one of the things that's kind of funny is that he would leave it Reese's peanut butter cups. And this extraterrestrial really loved the peanut butter cups.
So he would bring him in exchange a half-eaten deer or carcass of some sort as a thank you, as an inner exchange.
But he had run into him quite often, and he had also told us about he
told us about the sky people that they've been coming since he can remember. He remembers when he was about 15, the elders at that time, in their language, they speak a very ancient language, had explained that the sky people came, and they actually, not only with interaction and created Bigfoot, but also was the start of the ant people, which were another sky people. Sky people is very old terminology from the sky people that comes from the Pleiades, the Pleiadian system, as well as star people, which is a more new age terminology. But basically they all come, they all interact. Clifford actually lives open night sky, and he communicates with extraterrestrials telepathically. And as you can see in the pictures, these are all the common sightings. We have the grays, we have the other gray, the other aliens as well. Bigfoot, that was an actual drawing of a Bigfoot sighting. And then over here to the left of this picture right here, that was actually a satellite picture that was taken of an alien that was out on in Antarctica off of a mountaintop.
That's another whole lecture, Antarctica. Yes. Lots of stuff going on there.
And of course, you have my personal hero, Ellen Ripley from the Alien series. She just, did not stand or tolerate their, malfeasance. So James Cameron, Tony Scott, they actually had really, really great mindset of aliens, because not all aliens are cute or adorable. They don't come in terms of peacefulness. And we're also protected a lot by the blues.
90%, they say 90% of the extraterrestrials are benevolent.
Yes.
So there's more good ones than there are negative ones.
Yes.
And here's the
PsyChicks.
Here's the PsyChicks. Our contact information. If you want to write anything down, we're going to be also in room 15 if you would like a reading. And for now, I believe we have a little bit more time. If
ET no phone home, you give us a call. You let us know. We can help. We can help communicate with you, with them too.
And again, if you can't get a hold of us tonight, feel free to call us. We also do things on Zoom and over phone and in person if we can. But does anybody have any questions?
Definitely open it up for questions. You got 7 minutes, enough time for you to your giveaway, and definitely open up the questions. That was really great. Awesome. Thank you, ladies.
Wow. We welcome questions and comments.
Right.
Yes, all of it.
Please, with the comments. We like the feedback.
And again, if you have any requests of any other legendary monsters you'd like to hear about, we have a lot of information on quite a few of them.
So let me see. Somebody had a question, something about portals.
Yes, portals.
They would like lessons on portals, please.
Okay. So a little quick on portals. Okay, there's portals all over the earth. Some of the more
closets, kitchen, bathroom, even there too.
Some of the more famous portals. There's one in specifically.
Sedona.
Yeah, specifically. Is it in the Pacific? It's up in the Antarctic.
The Pacific is Pacific.
But it's the one, a lot of people may have heard about this, but there was a portal up by where Admiral Byrd had actually gone into it when he was in the Antarctica. And he went in there accidentally, and then he ended up in what they call inner Earth. I'm not sure how much anybody knows about inner Earth. I learned about it back in my 20s.
I learned about it back in my teens.
But you don't hear too much about it anymore. But there's a whole nother earth right inside of us going on that a lot of people don't know about. And also there's lots of tunnels and stuff for also other entities that they travel in. All over the earth, they go from, in Peru, there are volcanic tunnels, which actually go from Peru all the way down to the Antarctica. Is the Antarctica on the bottom? Antarctica. And, all over the world. And most people do not know about these. There's been other portals there's a portal in, I believe it's right around Sedona. Interesting. I found out about it in a very unusual way. This happens to me a lot. I'll be going to other like workshops and seminars, and I'll be in the middle of going down into like an altered state. And I may be going down to one of them in particular. As I went down, I was taking shamanic training, and I was going down the tree, which is one of the things they do, to go find my power animals. And as I was going down the tree, it was like someone just like changed the channel. And all of a sudden I'm seeing all these other things. And one of the things that I saw, we were supposed to draw. And one of the things I saw were actually all the hieroglyphics that were on this portal that was, I guess, within probably 30 miles of where we were at. And I didn't know anything about it at the time. And, I drew all these things on the thing. And so they had a little share thing afterwards, and they're passing around, what we drew and everything. And they're like, oh my gosh, and they're passing around, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what? Because I was like 20, 21, and I had no idea about the portals.
Stargate.
Yeah,
Stargate.
Like that movie, yeah, it's kind of like Stargate.
Russell.
Yeah, and they had told me that I literally had written all the portals. And then when I found out about it, I had this great urge to want to go and just touch it. And nobody would let me go there because they thought if I were to touch it, I would just like disappear, because people had disappeared there before. They go to this portal and they touch it and they're gone.
And
so
we had a question: Who lives in the inner Earth?
Who lives in inner Earth? Okay, so
Frodo.
Could be.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. They say it's kind of a tropical climate, and that there's
a second sun.
There's another sun down there, and there's also all these other extraterrestrials that live down there.
No chemicals.
Yeah, it's very clean, very, very nice, and very elevated and advanced. A lot of advanced technology down there.
Is it cave-like or forest-like?
Supposedly, all the tales relate to entering through a cave and then coming out halfway through and discovering a Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stories that I started, like when I was 13 or 14, I found out through different people, word of mouth, that it was actually started way back when the 12 tribes left Egypt, and they broke off. 2 of the tribes decided to keep on going, which they settled Canaan and the other city, and the other 10 went down underneath. Now, the most peculiar thing of that is that they were actually the Nephilim, the giants, which were about 10 feet tall to about 15 or 16 feet tall. So that's part of the history, the rich history that's always a common tale regarding who lives down in Middle Earth. They have their own second sun, and they have found near caves a lot of sightings of skeletons found during Lincoln's time in the mid 1800s. Was sightings in Nebraska, Idaho, Montana, all the mountainous caverns. They found skeletons of giants. And what was more interesting was that they found Indian tribes that lived near that would end up killing those monsters,
Mm-hmm.
those giants, because they would eat the people there.
There was actually a picture of a Native American chief, and he actually had
the headdress with the red hair.
He had the red
giant.
hair that he had scalped one of the giants, and it was very, profound that you were to have that. And but there was also portals, like there was I had seen about this one portal that was on this man's land, and he had actually used it to dump garbage in. And after a while, he realized that no matter how much garbage he dumped in it, it never came to the top. So he had taken a big like rock, and he tied it to this really long string to where, as long as he can get it, and he kept on going down, going down, going down, going down, and he never ever found the bottom. And he had happened to talk to like a military installation and had told somebody about it. And then within a few days, they had actually come in, they had taken his land, and they had confiscated his land and tied it all off because, see, I just went into a different dimension. Where am I? Oh, there I am. And
no skipping portals.
no skipping
You
portals.
stay here.
But I want
So
to.
it's okay. Let me just check on the next speaker, and we have our next speaker ready to go, Colette?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so ladies, we need to wrap it up because we have
All right.
she's doing a despacho ceremony and we have to honor the time.
No
Okay.
problem.
You will be back at 9:15.
Yes.
Come see us in room 15, and we'll give you an awesome reading.
Yes, 5 minutes free and then $2 a minute for 2 of them. So, and then they'll be back in a couple of hours and to be continued. Who knows what they're going to bring to the table. So
And again, we're bilingual. If there's anybody
Sí.
that see, in case anybody would prefer in Spanish.
in case you're sitting there listening in English and you rather speak in Spanish, go for it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheri.
Thank you, Sheri.
Awesome. I took some great notes. That was so fun.